So, a suspect has been found in the absolute brutal murder of four college kids. I'm relieved, but I do have some questions. What's up, everybody? And I know this is something we don't normally cover, but I thought it was important, especially to keep an eye on this because of what I perceive as potential holes in what could be an innocent man. And before you come for me, if he is found guilty, string him up by his you know what, because it was absolutely heinous what was done to those kids. Now, before we get to the article, I wanted to talk about why I'm having reservations. So I've been following this story since it came on the radar, and it seems so fragmented and disjointed at the beginning of all this. And then out of nowhere, they've got a suspect. Now, I get that they couldn't broadcast it out just because it would send the suspect into the wind and they may have never caught him. But the way that they handled it in the beginning really crippled the confidence that I had in the investigation that they were doing. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in that. But with all that said, the evidence is mounting up and it's looking kind of undeniable. But this kid should definitely get his day in court. Now, with all of that out of the way, I have the article pulled up. Let's check it out, then we'll talk after. So we're going to be looking at an article from Fox News. The reason I went with this one is because it has the most updated information that I've seen, and I've read about 4 articles. There was one about why was Bryan Kohberger, why he was in Idaho in the first place. He he one of his cellmates threatened to kill him because he showed no remorse. Now, this is according to the article that I had read earlier, and he asked him why he would even go to Idaho from Washington State, and allegedly, Kohberger said that the shopping is better there. And it was from, if I remember correctly, it was from an insider who said this. So I'm not even sure if it has been corroborated yet. But anyway, Idaho murders. Bryan Kohberger changed license plate 5 days after student slayings. Investigators believe Kohberger drove his Hyundai Elantra from Pullman to Moscow to commit the killings. And this is by Chris Eberhardt. The suspect in the grisly murders of 4 University of Idaho students switched his license plate 5 days after his car was spotted near the crime scene, according to state records and a newly unsealed case filing. Investigators believe Bryan Kohberger drove his 2015 white Hyundai Elantra from Pullman, Washington, to Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th, when Kaylee Goncaves, Maddie Mogan, Zana Coronado, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapman were stabbed to death, Moscow police said in an arrest affidavit released Thursday. Prior to the killings, Kohberger had been driving his Elantra with a Pennsylvania plate, LFZ 8649, according to the affidavit. And this is curious stuff, right? So we're going to read this paragraph real quick. Before the slayings, Kohberger was pulled over twice while driving with that Pennsylvania plate in Moscow on August 21st and a Washington State University in Pullman, where he was a PhD. So they do go on to say that he had both license plate. Now, if you have your license plate or your car and it's registered in Idaho, why would you then keep your license plate to put back on your car? Now, for sentimental reasons, I do have 2 license plates. I only use one because my car is registered in the state that I live in, but I would never switch back to the other. I mean, 1, because they're expired, and 2, because I don't live in that state anymore. So it's really curious, and that's why I said that the evidence is mounting. So this is part of that. On November 18th, he registered his car in Washington and received the Washington license plate CFB 8708 on December 5th, according to Washington State Department of Licensing Records. That plate was seen in police body cam footage when he was pulled over in Indiana and captured by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado on December 13th during Kohberger's cross-country trip with his father back to their Pennsylvania home, according to the affidavit. Surveillance video near the murder scene captured a white sedan traveling near the students' home in Moscow around the time of the killings. Moscow police put an alert out to local law enforcement to look for a white Elantra on November 25th as they searched for the killer. 4 days later, a WSU police officer searched for white Elantras registered at the school and discovered Kohberger's car with a Pennsylvania plate, according to the affidavit. Later that day, a different WSU police officer found Kohberger's car in a Pullman parking lot about 10 miles from the crime scene, the affidavit says. That's a whole another article. The next week, on December 7th, Moscow detectives, or Moscow, I've been corrected on this I don't know how many times, but I'm just gonna go with Moscow. Feel free to correct me in the comments. Moscow detectives said they wanted to speak with the occupants of a white Hyundai Elantra that was found in the area of the off-campus home where the 4 students were killed. Tips and leads have led investigators to look for additional information about a vehicle being in the immediate area of the King Street residence during the early morning hours of November 13th. Investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case. As police asked for the public's help, law enforcement seemingly began to zero in on Kohberger. The WSU officer who found the car in the Pullman parking lot ran the car and returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag, the affidavit says. Kohberger's car was ultimately seized during Pennsylvania State Police's early morning raid of Kohberger's parents' Albrightsville home on December 30th. State Police said during a press conference on Tuesday. Sorry, that kind of slipped me up. That's when Kohberger was arrested before he was extradited on Wednesday. He landed Wednesday night in Pullman, where he was seen in cuffs, a sweater, and red jumpsuit being escorted by law enforcement. The Moscow Police Department continues to urge the public to submit any images or information that they think could be important or useful for this investigation. They can do so by calling 208-883-7180, submitting tips through tipline at ci.moscow or moscow.id.us, and sending digital media here to this link. And what I'll do is I'll put this stuff in the description, so if anyone sees this and has any tips, all that information can be found in the description. So, if it is him, we can make this more ironclad and put him away. And if it isn't, we can make sure that an innocent man doesn't go to prison or get the death penalty, because that's what he's looking at. But yeah, this is the most recent information that I've seen come out. The evidence that's building up against Bryan Kohberger right now. But yeah, so apparently they're still looking for the murder weapon, which investigators say would kind of complete the triangle and make this more ironclad. While this is going on, I think they've made the trial close to the public. I could be wrong about that, but I think I read it somewhere. So we'll have to wait for details to come out through the press and things like that. But if you aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because I will definitely be keeping an eye on this stuff. And with that, maybe we can get some answers on why he did it. And probably most of all, the families of these children can get justice. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you guys for stopping by. We really appreciate it over here. If you made it this far, you're the true MVPs. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to share it out. There should be another video popping up. And in the meantime, keep it casual. Peace.